Okay, today we're having more fun with the Abrites. We've got our breakout box out and we've got our cable, and this is a MED17.1 out of a, I want to say it's a 2004 A4, and we've got a new used one to put in there. So we're going to read our data. Okay, first you're going, oh, how the hell do we do that outside the car? I said the same thing. So we're going to, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go to user manuals. And this is just me talking. Do you notice how it goes online to get these? The ones that I use the most, I actually save them to the desktop. And if you look down here, Abrites engine control user manual, if you click on that, it brings up a new screen. And for us old guys, we have to open it up to the wide angle lens. And it takes a while. And this is the reason I say, for the ones that you use a lot, I save them to the desktop. Okay, so we're going to go down here. We're going to keep going. And it's going to tell you a bunch of stuff. Tells you how to use that. Yep, how to use that. Okay, diag. Now, this is where it's kind of cool. And this is the one thing that I kind of wanted to show. There's different ways of getting the same result. But I'm going to speed down here. And I am going to go down to, hell, I don't know where I'm going. Okay, there's Volvo. Let's see. I'm trying to find one that says Volkswagen or VAG. Yeah, I really don't give a darn about the Java. Java. Unless it's a cup of coffee, I really don't want to hear about it. Okay. So, okay. EDC, that's an Opel. There's an Opel Vauxhall. Okay. Mercedes. Aha. I saw a seat Skoda. And I would love to tell you that these things are all set up perfect. That everything, but you know, I mean, I am not going to sit here and try and put them down because, hell, I don't know how I would have put it in there any different. Okay, so there's an EDC 17, and what I found is most of the time, if you just go down to the pretty much the bottom is where they're going to have the MEDs. I know, this makes you kind of seasick. Okay, so there we go. If you notice, there's an MED 17.1 and there's a 17.1. Okay, so just so you know, look at the page. We're on page 73 and we are MED 17.1. So this is where it's always fun. There's a 17.11 and I thought there was a 17.1 with nothing on the end of it. If you go through here, you can actually find it. So if you look at this one thing you'll notice is, see this right here, these, I don't know, flanges, whatever you want to call them. If you notice, on a lot of these, they don't show those. And yes, it can be kind of hard to find this. So, this is where, okay, see that? MED17.1. Now, this is going to tell us where we need to hook stuff up. And if you notice, see these? The red, the blue, that. These are T1 and T2. First time I used this, I didn't know what the hell to hook up to those. And they aren't all the exact same. And the reason I'm saying that, if you look at these, you know, make sure that you go up, and we're on page 76, and you gotta go up, and I always forget what page it's on. But what you're looking for is the key. That's right, we're all looking for a key. Hell, I've been looking for a key for years, and trust me, I ain't found it yet. The key to happiness. Yes, that's what it is. Okay, so I'm rolling up here. And what we are looking for is, there's like one at each start of the sections. And what it is a key, because there's an old and a new cable. So hopefully we're going to come up to that real quick. Come on. Aha! There it is. Okay. So, this is the old DB15. This is the new CB. Okay. So if you look at it, I have the old because, well, I'm old. Mine's gray, kind of like me. Look at that. Old and gray. And I have just a little bit more hair than it does. Okay, so if you look at this, you're going to look at your power. You know, the yellow with pink is the ignition, the ground is black. And if you look, they're a little bit different on, see how the ignition is orange here? Here it's yellow and pink. I think that's about the biggest difference. You know, it's like they ran out of this cable, so they decided to go with that one, which is cool. So now I am going to, after boring the shit out of you for this long, I'm going to hook everything up and we're going to do a read. Okay, so we've hooked up our wires and now we're going to go to ECU programming. And just so you know, I'm using the NEC cluster cable to power this thing, and I just realized it wasn't plugged in. Because you have to have power going to the distribution box to power this up. Okay, so you can see how we are at diag. I'm going to select bench, and then we've got the MED17, and you see how these all go, whichever one. And if you use BSL, it's going to ask you which chip you have in it, and if you don't know, it's always a good idea to go like this, and then select one of these puppies. Okay, after going down the list a little bit, we have a 2009 Quattro, and it's an MED17.1. So we're going to select the green arrow, and just to be on the safe side, I mean, we're going to go down here and look at the program flash, and then we're going to click info. And it tells us, same thing that it did before. So if we go back, if we go in here and try and read it, sometimes it won't read this stuff, and the reason is because it doesn't have that in the ECU. So you can see it's trying, but I think it's going to error out. Yeah, because it doesn't actually have that. I mean, basically it has a program flash and a data flash. So watch what happens if we click on external. We're going external. Watch out. You notice what it says? External flash not present. So basically, if we go back and we look at the program flash and we try and read it, it might not. It might read it and it might not. Okay, so if you go into the program flash, this is like reading the flash on an older ECU. It takes forever. So I'm going to stop the video and I'll wait until it gets done, and then I'll do the data flash, and then we'll show you how to write it to another one. Okay, so memory reading succeeded, which, what can I say? I start this and then I go do other things. Okay, so I'm going to put the phone down for a second, label this, and then we'll come back. Okay, we're going to save that. And like I said, you know we don't have an external flash. But let's look at the data. So there's the program flash, which is the big set of data that runs everything, and that's where the tuners go in and change everything. The external flash is something that's on some of these ECUs, but not all. And then we're going to look at the data flash, and we're going to read it. And this one really shouldn't take that long. You notice how quickly this one goes? Because this is, and I'm probably wrong when I say this. You need to actually go talk to some of the bigger brains than I have. But remember on the older ECUs how we have the flash? We have the flash, and then we have the EEPROM. And the EEPROM is what has all the data in it. So that's what I'm going to save this one, and then I'll come back. Okay, so we've hooked up our other cable, and if you don't know, I always talk about this. This is the CarDAC, not CarDAC, it's a CarProg cable from CarProg over in Europe. And I just use it for everything. It works really good for me. Okay, so we've got that hooked up. We've opened up VAG. We're going to double click on that, and now if you look at this, you can tell what it is. That's the part number, and this is the VIN number. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook up to the used one, and we're going to check its VIN number, and then we're going to read and then write the data and see if it changes. Okay, so now we're going to try and read or write the data from the original to the used. And first, I am going to go to the bench data flash, and I'm going to go write. And what gets me is, usually this saves it in Audi or somewhere in the Abrites folder, but for some reason it saved it in desktop. I don't know how in the heck that got changed, but we'll go ahead, figure it out, load it up, and then I'll start the video again. Okay, just so you know, I ended up going up and I clicked on details, and that way I got all the details. So if you look, see the data flash? That is only 128K, and the actual program flash is 2000K. So what we're going to do is, this is the one we just read from it. We're going to open the original, and this is what I do. I just leave it on that, let it fix what it, if it has a problem, and then program it to it. And this will take it a couple of minutes. It's really pretty darn fast. So now this is where we get to try out my hypotheses, which is all the data, such as the car's data and stuff, is in the data flash. So let's go ahead and let's disconnect this, and we'll hook up the other cable and see if we have a change in VIN number. Okay, a few minutes ago, I said that I've had a couple of problems when I try and program these into the car. Move the data, everything's okay, but for some reason it just doesn't sync and start. So if you go to Immo 5 parts data, and remember we read this? So now we're going to load the flash dump, and that's going to be the bigger one. So that's the original. Now we load the config dump, and that's the smaller one. And you can see it extracted the CS over the internet. Now we'll select Audi A4, then we'll click next, and it'll tell you what it does. It goes in several steps. Read the BCM module, which should adapt the ECU, and then synchronize the ECU and the BCM2. So what it does is it synchronizes the data between the BCM and the ECU. So if you don't do that, sometimes you can move all the data, but it won't start. So just so you know, that's usually what ends up happening. So we're actually going to bring these to the customer, put them in the car, see if they can work. And now you're probably asking, well, why are you doing all this? Don't you have Otis? Yes, I actually have Otis. And I tried programming this into the car, and every time it kept coming up saying that there was no valid key for the VIN number, which I don't know if it was bad internet or what was happening. This is a rebuild title on this car, and I'm wondering if it didn't get deleted out of the Gecko database. So hey, when we get back to the car and try and program this in, we'll let you watch and see how it goes. Okay, we are at the, I want to say it's a 2009. Yep, it's a 2009 Audi A4 2-liter turbo. And we have put our ECU that we moved the data over onto. And you notice it says safe. So we're going to go down, double click on that. Okay, so engine control unit. Okay, we're going to load the flash, and hopefully we can find this. Okay, so seeing as we moved the original over, I always forget which one we're supposed to open. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, we want the big one. Okay. Now, we're going to grab the smaller one. Okay, now we're going to go next. This is an A4. Next. Okay. So now, hopefully, we're going to synchronize these, transfer data. Okay. So the BCM. Okay, synchronizing ECU, BCM2. Press ignition switch off. Ooh, we're still safe. Failed to synchronize the module. I wonder how come. Okay, if you have made it this far in the video, you know I'm flying by the seat of my pants. First, I read the data from both ECUs. I moved the original data, just the data file, over to the new used one. Then I went ahead, put it in the car, wasn't able to program it in. So what I did was move everything over, and I got an error that said OTP, one-time program. So I programmed the used ECU back to its original used status and saved the files and loaded them into the tool, and that's how we ended up finally getting this thing to program in. You'll see that next. Okay, so we have our used ECU, and we have read our data with the ECU programming tool. Now, we have a working key, and you'll notice it changes. Okay, so it read that, processing the data over the internet, synchronizing ECU and BCM2. It says that the data, okay, so now it says it did it successful. Cool. Let's see if it starts. First, we're going to take the key out. Going to put the key in, and it fires up. Freaking awesome. Okay, if you've watched this whole video, I'm sorry it took so long. It really took a little bit of time to figure out how to use this. But what I figured out is if I run into this issue again, I am going to read the data from the used ECU, save the files, and then I'm going to use the ECU adaptation Immo 4, Immo 5, and then just do it that way. That is what worked just fine. Sorry it took so long.